When POCO released their first F-series device, the POCO F1, they shocked the world with one of the best flagship killers on the planet. The same can be said with the follow-up, that being the POCO F2 Pro. It's been 3 years since we've had a Pro variant seen in the F-series, and POCO have just announced one of the best flagship killers of the year, the POCO F5 Pro. The POCO F5 and F5 Pro do share similar camera setups, but the F5 Pro offers ridiculous value for money as it features flagship features such as a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset, a WQHD Plus resolution display, as well as wireless charging, which is a game changer for the mid-range segment. And in typical POCO fashion, they have left nothing out of the box. Each device comes with a jelly case, a 6-amp charging cable, and a 67-watt charging brick. This is TechNick, and this is my full review and comparison of two of the best POCO phones to have ever been released, the POCO F5 and POCO F5 Pro. The POCO F5 starts at $379 and is essentially a rebranded Redmi Note 12 Turbo, while the POCO F5 Pro starts at $449 and is pretty much a rebranded Redmi K60. They may be rebranded versions of a couple Redmi phones, but those Redmi devices only released in China, whereas these two POCOs are getting a fully fledged global release. The POCO F5 series has a refreshed design this year, and while I must say both look stunning, the standard POCO F5 has got to be my favorite. And that's largely due to its fantastic camera module design, which has all three sensors separated for a simplistic yet elegant look, which sit on top of a plastic backplate. It comes in black, blue, and the color which I have, that being white. But it's not just any white. It has a turquoise-like color which starts at the bottom of the device and shoots in a pattern that fades towards the top of the phone. Not to mention, the second color tone also wraps into the plastic side frames, which are a lot more squared off than the F5 Pro. The POCO F5 Pro has silver finished plastic frames and a single tone white back, which looks nice and clean. It also comes in black with a carbon fiber pattern on its edges. The backplate of the F5 Pro is more premium due to it being made of glass, and while its camera module still looks good, I still prefer the design of the regular F5. The F5 Pro's camera module is also a tad misleading, as the bottom sensor may appear to look like a periscope sensor, but in actuality it's just a macro camera. The POCO F5 is lighter at 181 grams as opposed to the F5 Pro's 204 grams, and the F5 is thinner too at 7.9 millimeters compared to the F5 Pro's 8.59 millimeter thickness. Both devices pack in an IP53 certification for limited dust and water splash protection, and both phones' front panels are protected by Gorilla Glass 5. Both of them offer an always-on display, but the standard F5 can only show it for 10 seconds until it disappears, and they both have fingerprint sensors, but the F5 Pro benefits from an under-display fingerprint sensor as opposed to the F5's physical side-mounted sensor. The F5 one-ups the F5 Pro in terms of thinner bezels wrapping around its screen. I mean, they are razor thin, and it hardly has a chin when compared to the F5 Pro. But the F5 Pro has the vanilla F5 beat in terms of their actual displays. They are both 6.67-inch flat AMOLED dot displays. They can both display over 68 billion colors. They both support Dolby Vision, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Widevine L1. They both boast 1920Hz PWM dimming, and they both offer a fixed 120Hz refresh rate. But the F5 Pro has twice the touch sampling rate at 480Hz. Houses a WQHD Plus resolution panel that packs in 526 pixels per inch instead of the F5's Full HD Plus resolution screen with 395 ppi. Not to mention, the F5 Pro can reach a crazy peak brightness of 1400 nits as opposed to the standard F5's 1000 nits. In terms of software, they're both running MIUI 14 for POCO, skinned over Android 13. MIUI for POCO offers a similar experience to regular MIUI in terms of appearance and customization options, but there is no option for large folders on the home screen, which is a bit of a bummer. That said, we still have MIUI 14 software improvements such as less bloatware and full Google services out of the box. When it comes to battery capacity, the F5 Pro once again has the upper hand here as it packs in a slightly larger 5160 mAh cell as opposed to the 5000 mAh battery of the regular F5. And while while they both offer 67 watt wide charging, the POCO F5 Pro takes things to another level with 30 watt wireless charging. This is very much a feature you only really see within premium flagship smartphones. And to keep things cool while charging, running demanding apps or playing games, both of them offer Liquid Cool Technology 2.0, which means they both have liquid cooled vapor chambers, though the F5 Pro has a slightly larger vapor chamber cooling system. And that's no surprise since the F5 Pro has a beefier chipset to keep in check, that being the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. The standard F5 is no slouch either though, since it houses an even newer chip, and the first to offer it in the global market, that being the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2. They both use TSMC's 4nm process, but the 8 Plus Gen 1 offers a slightly higher clock speed and a fancier main core, not to mention it uses an Adreno 730 integrated GPU as opposed to the Adreno 725 within the POCO F5. So it's no surprise to see the F5 Pro offer slightly better benchmark scores, but I mean slightly. I was actually extremely impressed by the scores produced on the standard F5 thanks to that Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2 chip. It scored just slightly lower most of the time and even managed to come out on top in terms of multi-core performance. And it's also worth mentioning that both devices offer LPDDR5 RAM and UFS 3.1 storage. So I really couldn't recommend one over the other in terms of performance, especially considering both of them perform incredibly well when it comes to gaming. That said, they both managed to reach 120 FPS in Real Racing 3, provided you clear the battery and performance data before opening the game. However, the POCO F5 Pro did have a slightly more stable frame rate. But when playing Call of Duty Mobile, they were both just as stable, and both of them managed to reach 90 FPS when set to ultra frame rate mode, and a stable 60 FPS on both of them most of the time when playing Genshin Impact on maxed out settings, which is impressive to say the least, since it's a very demanding game. They also both managed to pack in Bluetooth 5.3, NFC, dual SIM 5G, and Wi-Fi 6E, so connectivity on both are identical. Not to mention they both have a USB 2.0 Type-C port, an IR blaster, and an X-axis linear vibration motor. However, only the standard F5 has a 3.5mm headphone jack. And this time both of them offer dual stereo speakers as well as Dolby Atmos support. So you can't exactly go wrong with either device in terms of performance, since they both perform phenomenally well in terms of gaming and benchmark scores. But now it's time to shift our focus to cameras. So let's kickstart things with selfie camera performance. Both devices have tiny punch hole notches at the top center of their displays, though the F5 Pro's punch hole seems to be a smidge smaller. They are both identical 24mm 16 megapixel selfie cameras with fixed focus, and when taking selfies I noticed that the POCO F5 packs in more detail, while the POCO F5 Pro is more color accurate. They are both average when it comes to edge detection, though the F5 Pro offers more natural depth of field in portrait mode.
What's up guys, this is Technic recording a 720p 30fps bokeh video using the selfie cam on the brand new POCO F5 Pro. Unfortunately, the vanilla F5 lacks bokeh video when using the selfie cam. Good news is that both of them can shoot 1080p 60fps selfie video, which is really good to see, though it seems that there's a bit of a higher field of view on the POCO F5 as opposed to the F5 Pro.
They both offer more than decent selfie video performance when set to 30 FPS at night, though the F5 Pro suffers slightly more from noise grain. And just as I mentioned earlier, only the F5 Pro offers bokeh selfie video. It does a decent job at night too, but it's still limited to 720p 30 FPS. When taking selfies at night, the standard POCO F5 tends to take better, more detailed shots almost every time, regardless of the mode being used, though I still prefer the more subtle background blur of the F5 Pro in portrait mode. So selfie performance isn't perfect on either device, but if I had to pick one, it would likely be the regular POCO F5. It just seems to pack in the better selfie sensor. They both take decent selfies, no doubt, and I'm really happy to see that they both offer 1080p 60 FPS selfie video recording, but now it's time to put that aside and focus on those back cameras. The POCO F5 and F5 Pro both have identical camera setups on their backs, which includes a macro, an ultra-wide, and a main camera. Starting with their macro sensors, they are both 2 megapixels with the same f2.4 apertures, but the sensors are different. As for ultra-wides, they both offer a 16mm 8 megapixel f2.2 camera with a 118 degree field of view. But again, the sensors are different. But when it comes to the mains, they are exactly the same, that being a 25mm 64 megapixel half-inch sensor-sized OmniVision OV64B40 sensor with an aperture of f1.79, and both of them pack in phase detection autofocus and optical image stabilization, but the F5 Pro does offer a few more features, so let's get into it. Neither macro shot is perfect, but the F5 Pro is more color accurate, and both ultra-wide shots come out decently, but the F5 Pro packs in more color and better edge distortion. They can both shoot at native 64 megapixels when using their mains, and while the F5 Pro is more saturated, the regular F5 tends to control white balance better. And when binned down to 16 megapixels, the F5 Pro seems to pop with even more color. They can also both shoot native 64 megapixel shots at 2x digital zoom, but again the regular F5 produces better color accuracy and white balance. And when binned down at 2x zoom, the F5 Pro slightly fixes white balance but produces an even more saturated shot. That said, it does come out more appealing. At 5x digital zoom, the standard F5 comes out more natural with greater detail, and the same can be said at their max zoom levels of 10x. The F5 seems to produce an all-round better picture. The standard F5 also takes a better photo of a human subject but tends to oversaturate tones, and they both look decent in portrait mode too. The F5 is still oversaturated but packs in more detail, while the F5 Pro is more natural with slightly better edge detection. Just like with selfies, only the F5 Pro has a bokeh video mode option, but it's once again capped at 720p 30 FPS. However, it still provides a nice background blur and great edge detection, but I feel that regular 4K 30 FPS video still provides a better result with more natural background blur. The POCO F5 has more detailed slow motion video but is limited to 240 FPS, while the F5 Pro can reach a whopping 960 FPS at full HD resolution, not to mention it can also record 1920 FPS slow-mo at 720p. The F5 Pro is also the only one that can shoot 8K video with its main cam, and is probably the only budget phone I've ever tested with 8K video. And while the F5 Pro can also shoot silky smooth 4K 60 FPS video with its main, the standard F5 is limited to 4K 30 FPS. They can both shoot 1080p 30 FPS steady video with their main cameras, but the results aren't exactly the best. And they are both limited to 1080p 30 FPS when using their ultra-wide cameras to record video, though the F5 Pro comes out looking slightly more natural. Recording ultra-wide video at night isn't perfect on either device, but the F5 Pro comes out a bit brighter. But the opposite effect can be said when recording main 4K video at night, with both reverting to mid 20 FPS frame rates. And again, only the F5 Pro can shoot 8K video, it looks more than decent at night, and it's good to see it benefiting from OIS and EIS. Taking an ultra-wide shot at night has the F5 Pro come out on top in terms of light noise handling, but I feel the standard F5 offers greater dynamic range when comparing their main cameras. At 2x zoom, the F5 Pro is brighter and offers more detail, and the same can be said at 5x zoom, but the F5 Pro becomes a tad too noisy at this range. 10x is once again their max zoom levels, and they look identical aside from the F5 Pro suffering from lens flare. The POCO F5 Pro is the clear winner when taking a shot of me at night, but the standard F5 seems to do a better job when set to portrait mode. So the standard POCO F5 does seem to perform slightly better most of the time when it comes to camera performance, and I mean slightly. But the POCO F5 Pro no doubt packs in more flagship-like features such as 8K 24 FPS and 4K 60 FPS video recording, as well as higher frame rate slow motion video and portrait video. So not only does the POCO F5 Pro offer more camera features, but it also offers a lot more flagship-like features, such as a flagship chipset, a larger battery, wireless charging, and a brighter, more pixel-popping WQHD+ resolution display, and it honestly doesn't even cost that much more. But if you would prefer a newer mid-range chipset that is still an absolute champion and can do without wireless charging and a higher resolution display, then the regular POCO F5 is still insane value for money. Let me know your thoughts of POCO's latest F-series devices in the comment section down below. This is TechNick, and I'll catch you in the next one.